Welcome in, everyone. Special conversation with WVU Athletic Director Wren Baker. Thanks for being with us. It's brought to us by U.S. Cellular. So you have touched and looked and peered underneath all the facilities that you've inherited here at West Virginia. What was your takeaway? Because I think it is kind of interesting, like you received this job, but you hadn't put your feet on the ground. So when you get here for the first time, you go like, okay, I've seen the football stadium and the Coliseum on TV before, but what were your takes?
Overall, very impressed, and work has been done that isn't always. I mentioned earlier in our conversation that the whole revenue debt service that returns revenue, so premium seating and those things. We've actually improved facilities for student athletes and their growth and development, which a lot of times people defer those because they're chasing just the facilities do revenue. But so when you look at the new performance center, when you look at the basketball practice facility, when you look at the push car center renovations, those are top in the country, first class, done very, very well. Now we also have the shell building where track does their indoor work. That's probably in the bottom 4 or 5 in all of Power 5. Candidly, we had better facilities at North Texas in that regard. So there's also some things we got to improve and do better. Our tennis facilities are not very good. Some of our soccer facilities are getting to a place where they need additional investment. And so as we flush out the details of our strategic plan, one of the things we'll do is a facility master plan. And I always say, in that facility master plan, you really want to lay out a vision for what do we want to be when we grow up, so to speak, so that when you never know when a donor is going to walk in and have an affinity for a project. And the only way that you can probably capture that affinity and move quickly is if you already have, hey, here's what we need and this is what it would do for our program. So, so we have some facility things to work on. In our 2 high revenue sports, football and men's basketball, we don't have enough premium and club seats. And anybody who builds a venue today loads up on that stuff, even at the cost of reduced capacity. That's something we got to look at in the future, and we'll pay a lot of attention to. But overall, I think the facilities were, the work, especially the work that's been done the last few years, I was very pleased with.
You wear a bunch of different hats, but you also wear one that has an N, an I, and a T on it. You're the head of the selection committee for the NIT, obviously something you were doing before you got here at West Virginia. That's interesting because that tournament has certainly grown in its level of sophistication through the years. It used to be a lot of Sunday night late phone calls where like, hey, if you bring them here, we'll take it. Yeah. That's changed. How's that gone for you?
It's been great. I'm an old hoops junkie, and so Fran Dunphy was on the committee last year. Now he ended up taking a job going back to LaSalle and playing. But I didn't know Coach Dunphy, but just we were assigned to a couple of conferences, fell in love with him. He would call me and give me updates before and after games in the Patriot League because he had several of his old guys coaching there. And I told somebody yesterday, watching the Ivy League championship from the selection room with Fran Dunphy, who would be on the Mount Rushmore of Ivy League basketball figures. As a hoops guy, those are moments that you really appreciate. With the job transition, being the chair has been really a heavy load, and I've questioned at times, should I have, for my own personal health and for West Virginia's sake, give it up? But Coach Dunphy had left the committee because he got a job. Gloria Navarez, who was the commissioner of the West Coast Conference where Gonzaga is, she got the job at the Mountain West, and she felt like she had to be at their basketball tournament, so she had to leave the committee. And so I felt like it would have been a real disservice to the committee to have a third person with experience leave because we had 2 or 3 new ones. And so I'm sticking it out. I'm enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun. It is a lot of work. You watch a lot of basketball, and so anytime during the day when I'm not in a meeting, I have somebody's game on the TV, trying to make sure that I'm doing a service, doing right by those student athletes and those coaches to have watched their teams play. But it's exciting, and I'll enjoy it. Same process now as the NCAA selection. We just have to wait until they complete theirs. So we're in there. They won't tell us exactly where the NCAA committee is, and this will be interesting for me this year because of where West Virginia sits. But they'll pull a team from our field, and then we have to go and fill that back and then redo some of our process. And So we're actually working next door,
Super neat.
waiting for them.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah.
Let's jump into academics, because you just used the term student athlete, and they are students before any of the other athletic stuff comes in. What is your initial assessment of where we are academically, and what is that marriage between the two?
Well, I think we aspire to be in the top of the conference and top of the country in both. I've never wanted to give on one at the expense of the other. I don't think you have to. I think philosophically, if you value the growth and maturation of the person ahead of the player, then they'll experience success in both. And I think we're doing a good job of that. And I can tell you, as we build out that strategic plan, that will continue to be a point of emphasis. But we understand there's expectations to win championships, and we're going to not hide from that. But it will not come at the expense of not just academic success, but personal growth and development of young people. That at the core of our jobs, that's center to what we aspire to do and should aspire to do, even more important than winning.
Yeah. The athlete part of that has changed dramatically, and it's being redefined in regard to the transfer portal and NIL. There isn't a right or a wrong answer to this, but at this point I think it's probably just opinions. In your opinion, what do you see the evolution of NIL doing here, maybe in 6 months, a year, 2 years from now? What's it look like?
I wished I knew. I think there's a lot of people that wish they knew. I do think we'll have more guidelines and rules. I was talking to Ken Kendrick, an alum of ours, a few weeks ago, and he made the remark. He said, our jobs are a lot the same, now. And I told him, I said, well, there are a lot of similarities, but I said, you have very strict and rigid rules on who can contact people on your team and when, and you know what everybody's contract looks like, and you know what every left fielder in the league makes. And I said, in our situation, there's not a disclosures or a database where you can go see that. And there's a lot of people that are saying things that I don't believe to be true. There are a lot of people out there promising things that they aren't delivering on. And so that's not a healthy situation for student athletes. It's not a healthy situation for schools. Not good for anybody involved. And it probably really gives people who have ill intentions the power that we don't want them to have. So I think we'll get to a place where we will not rewind all this back and go back to the good old days like some people would like, but I do think there'll be a better system, a system with more rules and regulations, a system that where everybody knows the rules of engagement and how we can play. I don't love how easy it is for student athletes to transfer, because I think it leads many to not battle through adversity. And that's a part of growing up.
Yep.
However, I also understand the metric of holding a young person almost hostage to a place where they don't feel like they belong, or they're not getting what they want to get. And so a lot of these things, there's not a perfect solution. If there was, we would have already implemented it. It's just finding the path that everybody can live. It's like a good house deal. A good house deal, nobody feels great about it at the end. And so that's probably where we're headed. I know that there's a lot of congressional interest right now. I've had several conversations with Senator Manchin's office, and I know Gordon Gee has as well. So we'll see where all that winds up. I wish I had more definitive knowledge of where it will wind up. But I do think a lot of really good people, a lot of smart people that want what's best for student athletes are spending a lot of time on it right now.
Last thing, spring is coming. We can see it in the air, right? We can feel it a little bit here. Spring football practice will be underway. We'll complete that in April, and with that comes the annual spring tour around the state. What's your philosophy on going out there? We call it, the caravan and things like that. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to see?
Well, this year, it's really two things. I want to get out and meet people and see all of the beautiful parts of this great state, because I have not seen a lot of areas.
Sure.
You know, I have a map, and anytime somebody tells me I'm on the phone or in a meeting where they're from, I always go look at it because it's helping me get my bearings. But, you know, other than Huntington, when I was at North Texas, we traveled to Marshall.
Right.
I have not spent much time in the state. So I'm excited just to get out and drive across the state. But I think normally what you're trying to do is you're trying to make sure that the message that people hear all the time here locally, Morgantown and surrounding areas, that's carrying grassroots across the state, and that people know what we're trying to do. And when people can connect with coaches and figures they see on TV and that they respect for their leadership abilities, that allows them to deepen that passion, further those ties. And so that caravan piece is a really important part of what we do, especially, you know, we did them at North Texas. It wasn't as important at North Texas as it is here, where there is
Sure.
that statewide presence.
Yeah, well, very good. We wish you the best. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you guys out on the caravan.
You got a deal. There he is, Wren Baker, West Virginia Athletic Director. Thanks for being with us for this special conversation brought to us by U.S. Cellular.